Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Ruby Rebuild series. Let's get started on episode 3.
So in the last 2 episodes, we've officially removed Ruby's wide body kit. We made quick haste to get the kit off, get stuck into the engine bay, cleaning up all the messy wiring, making the bay look really tidy and really presentable.
So essentially in this episode, we have to make this harness disappear. And it might surprise some of you, but the way we do that is actually pretty simple. So this being one of the main engine harnesses is really crucial to have plugged into all the right spots. So what we're gonna do is this little rectangle here, we're gonna cut that out, and then we're going to wire this along here, and then cut a hole here as well, and it's gonna go through there, under the headlight system, and it's gonna look clean.
So it's officially that time. We've got the grinder, I've got a new disc, I'm gonna pop that on now. We have to get rid of all the wiring so we're not gonna cut into it. Always safety first, guys, so make sure you're wearing this stuff. You don't want a shard of metal flicking up into your eye. But here we're just cutting out the first hole of 2 so that we can get the main wiring harness out of the fender. So it's actually looking pretty good right now. What do you guys think?
Right, so now that we have this first one cut, we're gonna make way onto this one. Now this one is where it actually feeds it back into the body, and then we can get everything plugged in, extended, and looking mint.
Same as last time, guys, the grinder's out, we're just cutting another little hole here.
Okay, so now that both of these holes are done, they're cut, we've got one hole here and one hole there, we can start trying to feed the wiring through those holes, and hopefully all the plugs fit through, because I didn't actually measure them. So hopefully it fits and it's all good.
Just quickly, guys, thanks so much for watching these videos. I hope you enjoy. If you have any comments, make sure you comment them down below and subscribe.
Okay, so these all came through really nicely, but we hit a little bit of a problem. This big connector right here, which I don't even use because it's for the AC, doesn't fit by like 2 millimeters. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to do some more cutting.
So after I just filed the hell out of that hole down, I finally managed to get this plug through, but honestly, I forced it. You shouldn't do it this way, but I was over it and I forced it a little bit. So now we're going through back into the engine bay through the second hole.
So now that we have these wires actually through the bay, now we can actually measure and figure out which ones need to be extended. So as you can see, these are the throttle position sensors, the IACV, and the ground. So
just quickly, guys, the throttle position sensor is on the left, and that measures the throttle valve and therefore controls the amount of air which can flow into the intake manifold. Now the IACV, that is a sensor that controls how the car idles in terms of rising and falling revs. So the goal is to keep steady idle, and this is what that does.
These normally run up through here, plug into all of this stuff here, right? So now that we're running through there, unfortunately, they are not long enough to get to that connector. So these 3 are the only ones that actually need to be extended. The other ones are all sweet. They all have enough wiring to plug in and work just as they should. Quickly though, can we appreciate how clean this engine bay is gonna look? This is essentially how it's gonna look with the wiring. So you're gonna have that one big wire there, nothing coming down here. The headlight's gonna cover all the stuff we just did. And look at that, all nice. How cool, so sick.
So I'm just going to zip tie this harness together so later I know how to tape it and it's all nice and clean and tucked away and not in my way when I'm trying to cut and solder. So we're going to begin by unsheathing these. We're going to cut them, expose the wires, and then we're going to solder them back together. Now when you do this, make sure you're using a heat shrink over the wires that you just cut and soldered, because that will give it a watertight and waterproof connection. So essentially all we're doing here is cutting a wire and adding another foot of wire between those connections so that we can get to the other side of the bay and plug it in.
Okay, so extending those 2 harnesses, the throttle body harness and the intake air temperature control valve harness, are done. They are extended. Now all we gotta do is extend the earth, plus we have to electric tape and insulate all the extensions we just did so that it stays nice and watertight.
So make sure that once you've done this type of stuff, you're always electrical taping it all back together, make it all look nice.
All right, so this is finally wrapped up and we're ready to try and test fit it. Hopefully it fits properly first go and I don't have to redo any more of it. Okay, let's see if this fits properly. So we're going under here. Now the ends aren't wrapped yet, so mind that. And connect into there, to there. They fit and we have enough to actually work with so that we can tuck it away and hide it. Okay, so that's great news that they fit. So the last thing we have to do with this harness is we have to extend the ground. So we've got this connector and this connector, which normally come through here, that now come through here, and they tuck up to there. So this will all be tucked under this headlight looking all spiff and spam. The next thing we have to do is we have to get this earth here over to there.
Exact same process here, guys. Cutting, adding a foot of wire, soldering it back together.
Okay, so that whole harness is finally done. So let's see if it all plugs in and fits smick.
So with that harness fully extended, we can now finally try and plug it in. So they all fit, they all plug in really well. Now I just have to tie them together, make it look nice, and try and tuck the excess wire away so that people won't see it when the engine bays pop.
Okay, this part of the wiring is finally done and I'm super stoked with how it came out. Have a look. As it sits right now is exactly how it will be once the car is back together. We've got all this wiring back here that's going to be tucked up along there, and then we have our new wiring which runs under here, up and into these three connectors. Looking so sick. You can barely see that wiring there, and the headlight will cover most of everything that's in there. So looking sick. I'm super stoked that we've completely taken out the wiring from that side of the car and this side of the car, and it's starting to look just that much better.
So what do you guys think? Let me know. This is it, all tucked, zip tied to the fender walls. This is not going to be seen. You're not going to be able to see it. Looks mint. So I'm just test fitting the fenders here so that I can make sure that the wiring doesn't hit it. But man, it's looking good. How good does this look? Oh.
So the wiring is officially done for Ruby 2.0. It is done. I'm happy with it. It is all tucked nicely behind the fenders. You can't really see any of it, so it's nice and tucked, giving it that really clean look. Now this is the look I really wanted when I first did this build, but I just ran out of time and I lost motivation. So we've revisited it now, and it's come out better than I could have imagined. So looking awesome and making great progress today. Super stoked with how it's looking and how it's all nice and tucked. With the fenders on, here is the final result. Okay, so now that the wiring is all taken care of and that is all done, we're gonna move on to something that I never wanted to do. And that thing that I never wanted to do was take the fastback off. In my opinion, the fastback is literally the very essence of this build, and it is one of the coolest, if not the coolest part on this build. And since I actually finished this build, I have not once taken the roof off this car. Okay, so the two screws holding it on at the back are now off. The last thing we have to do is undo 3 screws. The latches normally are just under here, and then the whole roof will just lift off. This is crazy. I've never had the roof off this car before. Okay, now those 4 bolts are off, we can officially lift the roof off. Now there's one fastback successfully off the car. All right, so the fastback's now sitting nicely up against the wall. It's super lightweight because it's made out of fiberglass, so it was really easy for me to just pick that up and just move it over there. So now we have so much more access to the car. As you can see, roof's completely off. Have much more room to work and without hitting our head or things getting in the way. You can see my nice roll bar. So sick. So the main reason we've got the roof off is because I want to do a dash swap. Now, the drift car actually has a nicer dash than the dash in this car. So what we're gonna be doing is taking the dash out of this car, putting that in the drift car, and then putting the drift car's dash into this car. But we're gonna save that for the next video. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy this, make sure you subscribe, comment down below any thoughts, and like the video as always. I'll see you in episode 4. Peace.